Hi, I'm Parth, a full stack engineer at DevCycle, and today we're going to be looking at our DevCycle Roku SDK. We're going to be going through one of our test apps that we created here to create the SDK and use functionality in there. And it's running on the Roku here. As you can see, the left-hand side, you can see all the functions and the states that the SDKs can be in and what we're using to test the SDK functionality. These are basically the same functions that are exposed in other SDKs and what we serve on other client-side SDKs. So it's going to be the same thing. It's initialize, identify, user, get variable value. So I'm going to go ahead and initialize the SDK. So right now you're just seeing like default values. Initializing, you can see how quickly it just got all the variable data. It's showing all the different variable types as well. So there's a string variable, a number, a Boolean, a JSON variable, and then the undefined is actually a variable that doesn't exist. So it's just giving you invalid as it doesn't exist, and that's how Roku does it. So initialization happens with a set user, which is like predefined into the code. Now I'm going to go identify a user, which will be a different user. And you can probably take a look at the string or the number fields and how it updates. And as you can see, a different user quickly updates to the different user experience. And same thing with reset. If I'm going to reset the user, very quick, me clicking the button is going to get the config, showing everything on the screen. I'm going to go back to identify user and then show the other methods that we have on the SDK. So we have the get all features, which will just get all the features and the variations on them. Get variables, get the variables with associated values. If you want to get certain like a specific variable, then there's that with the value, and also the get variable value if you just want the value itself. Then, of course, if you want to do experimentation, there's the track event, which is a method we use to call your custom events and to track any metrics on DevCycle. Now, going quickly into the code, what you just saw there is the main scene XML file, which is very basic, just labels and maybe one rectangle in there. But it all kind of runs in the DevCycle task here, just running a loop to see what functions are being called and what data to be passing in from scene graph to the breadScript client. And then the main script breadScript is where you would be defining your DevCycle client and your DevCycle task. So I want to jump into the initialize DevCycle call. And there you can see this is how we've been calling user in all of our other SDKs, which is very simple here. Calling a user with your SDK and then your SDK options, where you will have to initialize it and then use it through the scene graph interface. And if you want to call anything on the DevCycle client, you can use the methods that are built in on it. So the things that we've already seen, such as get variable value, or you call it with the key of the variable and then the actual default value that you would want in code. And you can use it for like different use cases. So as you saw earlier, where we were just showcasing the values and putting it in the label, if you want to use a Boolean variable and then use that value to the channel itself. And that leads us into the track function, which I mentioned earlier. If you want to track your own events for experimentation purposes and kind of showcase or send data to DevCycle, you can use the track function. You can see the mock events that we have here. You have the type, target, value, whichever kind of things you want to track and send to DevCycle, and you see things there. Same thing with identify user, just gets called with the user itself. And as you can see, the private custom data, this is different than what we initialized with. And let's go and show that real quick. This only has the org ID, but the other one has the role of admin as well. So that's how you saw two different users. And yeah, that's the main functionality of the SDK. And you can see the other functions in our example channel that we have in the repo. Thank you.
Woo! That was sick, Parth. No notes, man. Well, that's great. We're good. Yeah. Awesome.